A lot of the teachers over here tell me that when they had their assembly today, a lot of children broke down because of what happened, and just kind of trying to understand and comprehend what it means for them. Before I go across to a lot of my colleagues as well who have been speaking to the children in other schools, we have Priyam over here, who's the head girl of Springdales School, and she's written a poem about what happened in Peshawar. Priyam, do you want to read that for us?
The horror-struck face of the victimized parent. He has suffered the worst tragedy that any can. He saw his bloodied child, a hole in his head, his chest, his eye bleeding out. I had sent him in his uniform, he said. He returned in a coffin next. Where was that seed of humanity that had been sown after our reunion? Our promise to fight for each other and not against. I sit here, watching, and I hurt.
That's perhaps the most moving thing I've heard. What made you write this?
I saw the news last night, and while watching all of these incidents, it was live, and I broke down because I could feel if I was in that position, I was in that school, if I would see my friends lying around and they were murdered, and maybe I would be anticipating a gunshot at my head, how would I have felt? And I felt their pain. I felt the pain of their parents who saw their children die, who buried their children, and it does hurt.
If you look around the school today, all over, there are posters, people signing campaigns, with one line which perhaps says it very, very eloquently. Your pain is our pain. That's what these school children are saying. I'll be going across to my colleagues as well. But Amita Battal, I just heard these really, really moving lines over here. Are you worried about how children are processing this, especially the younger ones?
I think that children are very resilient, and that's what keeps them going, and that's what makes them connect with life and with humanity. But yes, I do believe that there's a huge trauma that they are facing. It's not only the trauma that is being faced by students in Pakistan, but I think those who are observing these events, I think their entire lives have been fragmented. And I'm sure that they are reflecting that what kind of world are they going to inherit? What kind of legacy has been left to them?
Ms. Battal, just to get some of the, the nitty-gritties and the logistics of it all. I saw when I came in over here, a lot of policemen outside. Are you now coming to terms with the fact that school isn't as close? Are parents worried about that? And what is the change kind of security scenario in school?
Yes, from the morning there have been hordes of policemen who've been coming in, and they've informed me that they've been told to go to various schools in the city which they feel may be soft targets, and most schools are having police visiting them and finding out what kind of access do people have to the school, are there CCTVs in place, what is the kind of security measures. I've been getting emails from parents starting from late in the night asking me, they're worried, they're anxious, there's some very
I know that the ACP came and took a round of your school, the Assistant Commissioner of Police. Does he think that, is he going to post more people there, or will schools continue to be soft targets? You can't really protect them that much.
Well, schools are soft targets. I mean, as the ACP himself said, one can do just about that much. But beyond that, I think it is the government that has to really step in, and I think the government will be stepping in. The state governments need to step in. You do need some sort of paramilitary forces, but again, it depends upon how this whole thing is going to be looked upon as a policy nationally, because schools are soft targets.
Okay, I just wanted to point out over here, we've all been speaking over here. I think some of the images that have been beaming from Peshawar seem too close to home, and everyone's trying to process why it has affected this so much. And you were telling me about a friend of yours that you have in Pakistan, and how you connected on December 16th, a major turning point for all of us, and now she again connected yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. She messaged me 2 years ago when on December 16th the Nirbhaya rape case happened, and she messaged me again thinking about there's some kind of situation going on here. And I think this kind of stuff that happens, this affects everyone, not only people in Pakistan, but people all around the world. And that's perhaps why we're having this conversation here right now, and that's perhaps why we should have stuff like this, And to add to what ma'am said about the security and all these security issues, I think if terrorists or anyone come down in schools and soft targets like us, people lose rational thinking. And if a person is having a gun to your head, you lose rational thinking. And there cannot be any security in schools which, you know, will prevent this kind of thing. It's the kind of ideology that we have to inherit. It's the kind of ideology that we have to develop.
Okay, you wanted to quickly say something? Yeah?
I don't think this is a question of only security, but we have to look at the fact that some amount of humanity is involved in all of this. No matter what any government can do, I don't think any student in school is equipped to fight against terrorists. We have to ensure that there is some form of education that can be provided to people, even in remote parts of the world, where unfortunately they are being brainwashed by certain radicalists, so that we can ensure that these things don't happen, and maybe we can help the people in Pakistan pick up the pieces.
You know, while I was hearing you speak and everyone wants to say over here, I was just reading one message that someone has scribbled on the notice board there. It says, to the parents and children of Pakistan, we are with you. Your pain is in our tears. Moving words like this all over the school. And Saurabh, I just wanted to go across to you. When the Prime Minister made an appeal last night for all students to observe 2 minutes silence, perhaps we didn't know how much we needed that token to actually express ourselves. You wanted to say something?
Actually, I think to me the attack that happened yesterday reflects the fear of those extreme fundamentalists, because they've not killed the children, they have killed that ideology, that progressive ideology. Those were the kids like me who would have joined the armed forces and done something for the betterment of the country. Those would have taken in, you know, jobs in politics or in different parts, in different sectors of their country, and they would have worked for the development of the country. It has happened there, it can happen to us. So for me, it's the fundamentalist ideology that exists in every part of the world. And yesterday, they were able to kill the progressive ideology that was coming forward. So it's not the death of those children, but the death of those families, but the death of the ideology that the world wants.
I wanted to just go across to the counselor, the school counselor. Ma'am, when something like this happens, even though it's happening in Peshawar, which is far from here in mind space, do you think that you need to prepare your students as well?
Definitely, we need to prepare students as well. If you go back and we go to the age of 2 and 3, if you remember, we introduce certain stories to the children like Goldilocks, where someone comes and intrudes into our privacy and goes back. And then gradually you move on to stories like Cinderella and Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, where you are teaching your child every time that yes, something bad can happen in your life, or something can be whom you have to fight out. But ultimately we always teach our children that good will prevail, right? So I take that from there. We have to teach our children to cope up. It's not only that at the age of 12, 13, or we are all...
But how do you cope with something like this?
See, we need to talk. We need to talk our children. We need to talk. There has to be an open channel where they can come out and express the stress to...
Okay. You wanted to say something? Yeah?
So now, because we were talking about ideologies, I think schools play a very important role in framing those ideologies, because they're the very foundations where we learn everything. So I think schools need to provide sensitivity and leadership training to the students, and instead of what our leaders are being taught today, that is survival of the fittest, they should be taught about compassion and kindness and empathy, and reaching out to people and embracing people of other countries as we would have embraced our own loved ones, and not let the barriers of borders and race and religion come in between such issues.